Instead of going to therapy, I had someone crash out in my comment section. And honestly, I don't even think that's an exaggeration. I believe it's probably a pretty accurate representation. Now, let me ask you a question. Does anyone remember the show that aired a couple seasons back called Disney Twisted Wonderland? Not a bad show. I enjoyed it. And honestly, I thought the fandom reminded me a lot of the Fruits Basket fandom, which I really put on a high pedestal. I think they were a very enjoyable fandom to interact with. The show, decent. If it continues, there's a lot of potential. One of the characters in that show, I honestly thought was going to get me into some hot water with shippers and the like. And surprisingly, to the Disney Twisted Wonderland fandom's credit, they were completely normal and they understood what I said. The character in question, his name was Riddle. He was in a very emotionally, and I think if memory serves, potentially even physically, but in general, he was emotionally abusive to other students. And over the course of the show, you learn, oh, he had a very traumatic childhood. And what do I always say on this channel? Trauma will explain, but it will never excuse. And what does that mean for the smooth brains out there? Let's say you get cheated on in a relationship. You naturally will probably have distrust and trust issues going forward in other relationships. But does that give you an excuse to be overbearing and have no boundaries because you have such fear that they're going to cheat on you with this new partner? No, it gets to a point, right? If you were beaten as a child, does that explain why your natural instinct is to backhand your own child in terms of discipline? Yeah, it definitely explains, but does that give you a pass when you beat your child? No. Trauma explains your actions, but it never excuses actions. And thus, it is why it is important to not just live in that victimhood forever and do your best to heal and grow. Mistakes will happen, and that's why I think people who have undergone traumatic things have more leeway and forgiveness options than those who had a pitch-perfect life. If someone has a pitch-perfect life, never really has suffered, and they're just a piece of shit and do bad things, well, forgive me. Fuck you! But if they've had a bad life, yeah, you have to use your common sense. And this is what brings me to today's topic, right? Out of all the comments I got surrounding Riddle, I think this was the first account, and it's funny because the show's been over for a hot minute, but this is the first account that actually came in and got mad at me for being mean to their fictional boyfriend. Riddle is not toxic! He have been tested! Will you stop hating him for 5 minutes? The funny thing too is, while yes, it's been like 6 months or something since I watched the show, I don't recall ever actually hating him. And if anything, if I'm pretty sure what I always would say is, hey, I hate what he is doing. I can understand he have traumatic childhood, but that doesn't excuse the way he literally treats people like slaves and beats them up and everything like that. And as I said to this person, they are professional victims. I'm gonna try to remember what these other, because I'm fuzzy on some details. Does they still hate Riddle? Riddle deserves to be forgiven, and it's his mom's fault. Okay, here's the thing, this is all fake. But the thing about enjoying entertainment like anime is you have to be able to empathize and see where characters are coming from. So yes, there is a topic to be had about, you know, should Riddle be forgiven because of A, B, and C. But simply deflecting all of the shitty abusive behavior Riddle did because his mom was shitty to him and giving him a pass. Could you imagine, well, my dad got killed in front of me, so it's okay that I fired the gun at this random person for pissing me off. I know that seems like an insane jump in, like, exaggeration, but, like, this is the type of bullshit they believe. Riddle just lost... This is my favorite one, I forgot about this. Riddle just lost his temper. I'm not even exaggerating. For those who didn't watch Disney Twisted Wonderland, imagine taking a chair and smashing someone over the head because someone broke the rules. That's literally Riddle. And they dumbed it down to Riddle just lost his temper and Trey didn't do nothing wrong. He has anxiety. He just has anxiety. Could you imagine? Oh, sorry, officer. I ran this red light and crashed into a mom and her kid walking across the road. But don't worry, I have anxiety. My mom was mean to me. I don't think Ace at any point in this show was worse than Riddle. How the fuck does this fucking multi-fandom fangirl 2026 end up pulling this off? You get mad at someone rightfully criticizing a character designed to be criticized because trauma explains trauma will never excuse abusive behavior. But then you're okay being like, yeah, but if you want to dogpile Ace, you know what happened? They are a fangirl. Obviously, the name gives it away, but they are in love with a fictional husbando named Riddle. And in doing so, they think he's perfect. He's my baby boy. If only I could just cradle him, he'd be a-okay. And in doing so, we end up in this very toxic mindset where we can't properly analyze and criticize characters because people are overly attached to them. And that's a thing beyond just a show like this. I mean, it does get to a point where people are just overly, like, obsessed on what is real, what is fake. But at the end of the day, when you watch a show, right, you are supposed to be able to look past it just being fake. It doesn't matter. A great show airing right now is called Demons of the Shadow Realm, right? And in that show, you are constantly supposed to question who's the good and who's the bad guys. Yes, at face value, a lot of murder and shit has happened, but the more you learn about a village, the more you start saying, wait, did that village actually deserve it? Which is a fucked up thing to say, but then it gets to a point where you actually start questioning it. You are supposed to have these thoughts, and there's nothing wrong with being like, you know what, I really like Riddle, and I want to defend Riddle because I think you're being a little too harsh. The issue is when I believe, maybe the video they commented on, because I'm not going to rewatch my video, right? I'm not that egotistical. But I am pretty sure every video I criticized Riddle, I made it literally toddler-proof. Meaning, I would say, hey, little fella, trauma explains, but trauma doesn't excuse. Everything I'm saying is just criticizing his shitty behavior. Even if something, and I remember too, because for a while he was just a piece of shit. And I think in the early stages I said something along the lines of like, hey, like, I'm sure they're going to try to explain this at some point, but yeah, like, no matter what has happened in your life, it doesn't excuse your current behavior. And there's two types of people in the world who go through very traumatic things. The one side are those that you want to surround yourself by. You say, damn, you have suffered. You deserve to be treated well. You deserve to have proper friends and love and all this stuff. And when you do bad things to me, I'm a little more willing to forgive it because it's a trauma response, but I am going to try to correct it so you don't live that life, treat me poorly or other people poorly. And they, you know, they learn and they grow. They may never fully be perfect just because of depending on what has happened. But they don't need to be. You have more forgiveness because you know it's not them intentionally trying to be it. And then there's the other side, who make themselves a professional victim and, well, bad things happen to me so I can treat other people, and I think I'm always in the right. And that's initially what Riddle was. He grew past it by the end of the show, and to be honest, the fact that it took me, like, 9 months probably total, like, from the beginning to where we're at now, for there to be someone who actually got mad that I was too mean to Riddle is actually kind of impressive. But this is why fanboying, fangirling is a little weird. But yeah, therapy. Therapy's definitely needed for some of these people. Goddamn. Anyway, Disney Twisted Wonderland, pretty fun show. If it never got a season 2, am I going to cry myself to sleep? No. But actually some very interesting character arcs, especially with Riddle. Riddle was the best character in that show. And I think I continuously said that too. Most interesting, he's just a piece of shit for a good amount. But then he grew past it, which was nice because you like that characterization. If you enjoy stuff like Fruits Basket, I'm not saying it's as good as Fruits Basket, but there is some similarities. And honestly, yeah, the traumatic motherhood, childhood bullshit that went through was actually good. And despite it being, you know, a Disney property, it wasn't just simply fan service. They actually did something good with it. So I liked it. But yeah, goddamn, never bully someone's husbandos. At least I'm not in the K-pop fandom. Could you imagine if I criticized a song in the K-pop fandom? Take care, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, Patreon for full live reactions. Catch you later.